key stakeholders from Namibia to London have gathered in Houghton for the Brand Nation Forum. This is one of South Africa's flagship programs set up to coordinate the active participation of the relevant stakeholder groups in achieving a coherent and compelling nation brand image. Newzroom Afrika's Duduzile attending the event, and she joins us now from Houghton. Dudu, good morning to you. Some of the themes that are going to be covered at that forum, just give us some detail in that regard.
A very good morning to you, Oli. As you alluded to it in your intro, a number of stakeholders represented not only from outside of the African continent, but well within the South African continent, I do beg your pardon, representatives from as far as Botswana, Namibia, as well represented here, and some representatives from London. Essentially, the theme for this year is We Grow with South Africa. And some of the key themes that have been highlighted from today's forum, which got underway this morning, which is pretty much a prelude to tomorrow's main event, include collaboration. We cannot achieve anything without our partners across the continents. They also include taking a look at issues of crime. How do you build brand South Africa, which is a country that has a problem with crime? Some of the issues that were also discussed and themes that were also being discussed include the justice system. But joining us now is Mr. Tshepiso Malele, acting country head for China for Brand South Africa, who's going to be talking more to us about the issue of collaboration and why collaborations are so important. A very good morning to you, and thank you very much for availing yourself this morning. Perhaps let's start with Brand South Africa, right? Its significance and its importance. What do South Africans need to know?
Thank you very much. Good morning to you too. Brand South Africa is the official marketing and reputation management agency for South Africa. We are the custodians of the South African nation brand. We're a government agency reporting to the presidency, and our role is really to make sure that we manage the South African country brand and the reputation of the country in a way that helps to position South Africa competitively, which will then allow us to be able to attract investment into the country, increase trade, and also make sure that we rally South Africans to build the South African nation brand from within. And that also involves contributing towards increasing pride and patriotism amongst South Africans. And as you can imagine, that kind of mandate requires a lot of collaboration between the various stakeholders who play an important role within the construct of the nation brand, the people who make up the nation brand that we then have to be the custodians of.
That word collaboration, we're seeing a number of people from various countries, not only on the continent but outside of the continent as well. Why is it important for South Africa maybe to get a mirror, and reflect itself from outside of the country? A lot has been said during the forum about South Africa being inward looking.
It is very important for any brand to understand the way in which it's viewed, first of all, and secondly, it's important from the perspective of the overall continental African brand. South Africa is not an island, as we know. We have to work together with the various stakeholders and other country brands within the continent in order to shape and to build a positive narrative around the continent, because that has an impact on South Africa ultimately as well. And we know that we need to build those relations and ultimately boil down and have and play themselves out socially within our environment in South Africa. So it helps to understand where we're all coming from, understand what the disablers are of the South African nation brand as well as the continental African brand, and then shape solutions that we can then also collaborate on with the other countries, with other African nation brands, in order then to build our respective country brands. So our destinies are intertwined in that way. There are various platforms where we need to make sure that we support each other so that we can all be successful in our respective objectives. And so the importance of today is to get that discussion going and to make sure that we also then highlight those potential solutions that we can then work on in the days and the weeks that follow this year's Nation Brand Forum.
And that's just it. We'll get into what then in a few moments. But tomorrow is also the big day. If you can maybe just highlight in terms of attendance, what it is that we're expecting tomorrow and who will be there.
So tomorrow is the main Nation Brand Forum event, and the Nation Brand Forum being one of Brand South Africa's flagship programs that we use to bring together those key stakeholders who have an important role to play in shaping the overall Nation brand. And we will have a focus this year on the private sector, both South African private sector as well as international brands that are active in South Africa. The theme being Grow with South Africa, looking at establishing collaborations that will help to rebuild the economy and strengthen the competitiveness of our South African Nation brand. So tomorrow we'll have representation by companies such as Transnet, H&M, Old Mutual, Standard Bank, amongst others. We'll also have South African youth-owned brands such as Batu, Drip, Tepo Jeans and so on, because the youth-owned businesses have an important role to play in contributing towards the rebuilding of the economy and contributing towards the creation of jobs in the country. So those are the kinds of stakeholders that we have coming through tomorrow to the Nation Brand Forum, and we will then enter into discussions that will help us identify specific collaborative programs that we can all then roll out in the year ahead, all aimed at delivering a unified and a cohesive and a competitive South African Nation brand that can benefit all of the stakeholders, that will help to enable business internationally, that will help to attract investment into South Africa, and also help to build confidence within South Africa so that we can come up with our own solutions as a country.
So this is beyond a 3 or 4 day event. It's about also moving forward and the everyday South African. I guess maybe just to touch on that, what next, and also what message do you have for the average South African in taking agency and promoting your own country essentially?
Definitely. It is beyond a 3-day event. So these events, we see them as the catalyst, as the place where we brainstorm and where we agree and commit to actions that need to be taken. And the real work will happen after the actual Nation Brand Forum, because that is where we have to show that this is not just a talk shop. It's about identifying specific actions and making sure that we follow through and follow up to make sure that those actions are taken, so that next year when we have our next Nation Brand Forum, we're able to report and to showcase those collaborations that have taken place, similar to what has been achieved in last year's Nation Brand Forum, where we've entered into some MOUs as a result of that Nation Brand Forum. We've been able to partner with corporates, and we've also been able to work together with corporate South Africa at platforms such as the World Economic Forum in Davos, in order to convey a unified and a strong South African story to the world that is watching at such a massive platform. So to ordinary South Africans, we'd like to say to them, please play your part. Find a way in which you can contribute to the solutions, to rebuild South Africa, to create employment, and to make sure that we create and we strengthen the Nation brand to such an extent that it can benefit not only us, but our families and those that will follow after us. Because building a brand is not a short-term undertaking. We need to work at this and over a long period of time in order to really see the benefit that a strong Nation brand can deliver to us, as it impacts and drives decisions of investors, of tourists, and also helps to position South African exports and products that are made in South Africa to become more desirable and to be well sought after internationally. And that is how a brand, a strong country brand, can contribute towards strengthening our economy.
One of the key themes that came out during the opening session of the forum were people noting the issue of crime in South Africa. We also heard the news coming from Mpumalanga yesterday in terms of the killing of tourists, German tourists in South Africa. How difficult is it to manage a brand like South Africa where that aspect is concerned?
It is one of the major challenges when it comes to managing a country brand. Brand South Africa is the custodian of the country brand. We do not own fully or control fully. South Africans, individuals, civil society, government, stakeholders, business, those are the people who have a direct impact and contribution to a nation brand. And as the custodians, we need to harness all of those stakeholders in a way that will help to create a positive nation brand image. Now, the example that you're citing of the crimes taking place, especially those crimes that make international headlines, those pose a major challenge to the efforts of building a country brand. Those crimes happen, we cannot deny them. What we need to do is to make sure that we're able to build confidence amongst potential visitors, business people, investors and so on, that South Africa has the capability to manage the situation, to deal with the crime, to apprehend suspects and to put them through the criminal justice system and make South Africa a safer place. That is the important part, creating that confidence. And so in the days and weeks that follow, after such a high profile crime has taken place, we need to show that we are able to take action to make sure that there are consequences and that we are making South Africa a safer place.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to Mr. Tshepiso Malele, Acting Country Head in China for Brand South Africa. There you have it, Oli. The seeds that will be sown at today's forum and tomorrow's event are not necessarily about the generation of today, but about future generations. So when you say the name South Africa, you know exactly who you are talking about. People know exactly who they are as well, because they take a sense of pride in being South Africans. And on the issue of crime, there has to be repercussions. There has to be consequences. South Africa needs to be seen as a country that is got or has got consequences.